Welcome to Casey Cares, the voice of Kansas City nonprofits, and we share the stories of local nonprofits and the individuals who drive them. At Casey Cares, we connect the nonprofit and the business sectors to enhance the quality of life in Kansas City for both our residents and our visitors. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. You know, there really isn't a day that goes by when nonprofits don't have to think about raising money. And these days, with all the changes happening from cuts in federal funding to shrinking of other resources, fundraisers have to be more creative than ever. That's why we love our Ask the Expert series. It's our chance to bring in voices who can inspire us and share practical advice we can all use. And today's guest is one of those people. It's Casey Cares' own Dr. Philanthropy, Jeffrey Byrne. Jeffrey's a total pro with more than 35 years of experience raising money and crafting strategies that actually work. So let's dive in. Dr. Philanthropy, what's the state of fundraising right now? And how can we keep nonprofits moving forward? What do we need to do?
Well, first of all, thank you, Ruth, for having me on again. I'm honored. And, I think the state of the nonprofit fundraising today is keep pace with what you did last year and think about what you did last year and then repeat it for this year and this upcoming year, and then add to it as well. So, let me give you a high level picture of what's going on. We continue to show modest growth in the nonprofit fundraising sector. We increased philanthropy by 3.3% in 2024. So that's a modest growth. However, fewer donors are giving overall, and a smaller share of large donors are doing more of the total giving. And that is something, Ruth, that we've seen over the past 5 to 10 years. And that's a concerning trend because we want more people involved in philanthropy, not less. Although the major donors are giving a higher percentage of the overall giving that is being provided to nonprofits. So we really need to work on more grassroots and more people getting involved in fundraising. Nonprofits, however, have reported that they are seeing modest increases in their giving, according to the Chronicle on Philanthropy. So to me, that's a positive sign that, what you're doing is working, but you might need to do more to keep up with the situation of the economy and the overall health of the business sector. And last, constraints like inflation, rising operating cost, competition for donor attention, and also cuts in government support are pressuring nonprofits and their budgets. So, many of our clients had a public-private partnership with government the last 4 years from COVID through early part of 2025 that was able to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars into the nonprofit sector. That has been sharply reduced in the past 9 months. And that's not a political statement, that's a fact. Because I don't get into politics with my clients. I'm both blue and red with client organizations. However, it's a fact and it's something that we need to look at. That earmarks or congressionally directed spending, CDS, are way down than they have been over the past 5 years. And competitive grants within the government sector through the Department of Justice or the Department of Treasury or the EPA or Department of Homeland Security, all those competitive grants have been reduced significantly, if not completely. So we are seeing less government opportunities for nonprofits. Now, how does that then link back to the social service agency here in Greater Kansas City? That's a big picture idea, but that big picture idea is not their reality on the ground. So, I think there are a number of tools that we could think about, but I think that gives you the idea of what's going on and a high level picture with fundraising.
Before we move on to really those tools, and our goal with, of course, these Ask the Experts is not only to talk about the issue, but provide our audience, hey, go try this, do this, whatever. Has there been a period of time in our history where these things have been tracked that was similar in what we're dealing with in terms of reduced government support, uh, aging of donors, for all of that? Have we hit this before, or is this really something very unique?
I can think of three times in the last 25 years. As you mentioned, Ruth, I've been involved in fundraising for 37 years, and
You were 10. You were
I'm
10.
only,
Well,
I know, and I'm only 47
yeah.
yet. No, but I will say in the last 25 years, we've seen three major catastrophic events happen with our economy. Number one, September 11, 2001, with the World Trade Center. We saw on September 18, 2008, the economy melt down because of the financial crisis in the banking industry. And then in March of 2020, we saw basically the country and the world shut down. And during those three periods, what we found is that we advised organizations that were working with us that number one, you should continue to reach out to your major donors and potential donors. And number one, let them know that you understand what's going on in the economy. So, first of all, provide them some understanding that you understand what the situation is as well as them. Number two, that you are going to continue to keep in contact with them, but over the next number of months, we might not be asking you for a gift, but our need is not going to go away, and we will be back to you at some point in the future. Number three, at some point in the future, then we go back. Let me give you an idea of what we did during COVID, because that's the most recent crisis
Mhm.
and what I can remember. During COVID, we did all three of those ideas. So if COVID started in March of 2020, we provided that guidance on a monthly basis. We still met with clients on a monthly basis, and we asked them to keep up with their top 25 to 50 donors. And we kept continuing that message. Then by Labor Day, what we had seen is that the workforce was going back to work, maybe in a different way than we'd worked before, but the workforce was going back to work, and the economy was coming out of this huge dip into a recession, but it was coming back. And we re-engaged with our clients and asked them to start re-engaging with their donors. And our capital campaigns and endowments and feasibility studies are basically what we do. What we saw is that all of the clients that we were working with, and that was some 30 organizations, they got back into their ask mode, their cultivation mode, and their solicitation mode. And by the time that they were finished with their campaigns, which had been extended at least 6 months or more, they
Mhm.
were all successful, every one of them. So I would think that during this time period, it's an opportunity to, not stop your fundraising, because the economy, frankly, is quite good. Although there's signs of a recession, we haven't had 2 quarters of negative growth yet. So what we would suggest is that you continue to keep in touch with donors, but you continue to ask for gifts. And especially as we are looking at this end of the year over the next 3 months, we know that this is the most generous time of the year for donors, and nonprofits raise a lot of their money during the last 3 months of the calendar year.
I think it's interesting as we look back at the pandemic years and now being out a number of years, there were organizations that really benefited and did well, human service, health, etc., because they were responding, with services, etc. Now that we're that far out and the government has taken away a lot of funding, plus it seems like some of us were maybe not prepared for that, and now it's a different shift as to what's up front and center. So with that mindset and your suggestions of staying the course on some of this, what are some of the more uh, creative or maybe things that are in our suitcase that we need to pull out now that we haven't pulled out for a while that can really help people move forward, because everybody's competing.
Well, everyone is out there doing fundraising. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I believe in competition in the donor sector, in the nonprofits, although there's lots of competing requests. However, it just depends on how you prepare yours, who you're taking your proposal in with, who your volunteers are, how old your organization is. There are a lot of factors that to determine how you position your nonprofit. But I think some of the areas that a nonprofit might want to look at is, what's your donation rate? Okay. How are you retaining the donors that you have? What are you doing to engage lapsed donors as well? Those donors who've given to you, most all nonprofits today have fundraising software, and with little to little work, you can go back into your database and you can find out what donors have currently given and who hasn't given, and then who hasn't given those lapsed donors. You can devise a strategy to re-engage them. I think also looking at diversifying your donor base is very important. So, are you heavily weighted on foundations and not individuals or families? Are you heavily weighted on corporations and not foundations or individuals? So, I think there are opportunities to look at how do we diversify our fundraising base and bring in new donors. I'm on a board of a major dance company based in New York, and we are just evaluating that as we're looking at a mid-campaign evaluation on a $6.5 million campaign, and we're $4 million into it that we've raised in pledges and cash. So we're looking at, okay, how do we raise the additional 2.5 million, and how do we encourage both lapsed donors to come back into the fold, and how do we encourage new donors as well, and how do we diversify ourselves? And we are looking at corporate solicitations who have who are national or international, who have markets around the world, since this dance company performs around the world. So we're looking at that type of strategy as well. So I think also you need to look at your events. Are your events producing and netting the desired outcome of financial success you want? So, a special event can be retweaked during this time period as well.
Mhm.
Special events are the bane of my existence, and they have been for 37 years. However, I know that certain nonprofits, for instance, when I was working with the Harry S. Truman Presidential Museum and Library, we realized that to fund our operating budget, we needed a fundraising event. So we created Celebrating Harry Truman, and that we set a goal of netting $200,000 on our first fundraiser, and we were successful in doing that. And nearly 30 years later, they have continued to do the Wild About Harry. It got renamed to Wild About Harry special event fundraiser, and they've been raising between $250,000 and $500,000 each year. So I don't think that you cannot look at your fun special events as well. So I think that those are a few areas that I would concentrate on in helping to look at your current, your lapsed, and how to diversify your funding base as well.
Well, congratulations on setting that successful fundraiser into uh, great things at the library. I'm sorry it's a bane of your existence. See, I love going to those events. It's a great way to network and see people and hear a story. One of the things you mentioned had me think about how much, as you're looking at retweaking, you know, being creative, throw it out there. Um, when should you possibly draw in, excuse me, your donors, your top 10, your top 25, and letting them help you recraft? That was something, as I was researching for the show today, it was talking about having those stakeholders really be stakeholders and helping you reframe. Have you seen that much? Is that something to look at?
Reframing your need. I think that's what the gist of your comment and question was. How do you reframe, and how do you illustrate um, what your fundraising needs are. So I think that that's a good idea. I always believe in transparency, number one, and number two, bringing in your top donors and asking for their opinion, because guess what? When you ask for their opinion, they're going to provide that, and they're also going to be able to deepen their relationship with with your organization. So I would bring in between 5 and 7 donors at a time, and you could do roundtable discussions. You could host coffees, and it could be headlined as we want to do a listening tour with our best supporters, whether those be individuals, corporations, or foundations. We're going to do it on a small basis. We're going to do it over about a 3 or 4 month period. And we are not going to solicit you as well. So make sure that you let them know that this is a opportunity for you to present information, but that you're listening. What I find with nonprofits is that when they get nervous, when they're around donors and they're doing solicitations or updates, they talk too much. And that's a sign to me that that one is nervous. What we try to do is help coach organizations and their board members, their staff, in listening, because 90% of fundraising is listening to what the donor says with some open-ended questions in a conversation that an executive director or CEO or director of development can lead. And then, having a true discussion to deepen the relationship, to understand where the donor's mindset is, and then to respond appropriately and try to match their comments with what your needs are, and how you want to relate to them. If you're able to do that, I would say you could have no more than 75-minute conversation, but that you can facilitate a true conversation and not be a sales pitch as well. And I promise you, if you do that, that you are going to see those donor relationships deepen with your organization. Now, I think donors are going to be skeptical to come to a round table, but you've got to promise them that you are not going to solicit them. And if you are true to that, then I believe that that is one way of deepening a relationship with that donor or prospective donors as well.
I hear you. And I appreciate your input. We're talking with Dr. Philanthropy, Jeffrey Byrne. You had mentioned at the beginning, it used to be called when I worked with a certain organization, the tree huggers, those who are lapsed, have not engaged financially with you for a while. But you also, I thought, mentioned intergenerational or creating the next generation of donor. In this era that we're in, and the millennial, Gen Z, whatever you want to call them, we've seen through research, they kind of want a different experience. So, how would you guide us, the nonprofits? How do we, at this time, bring that potential donor in? Because they're going to be the long term donors in 15 years. How do we
Yeah,
do it?
well, I'll give one example, okay, because it's on my mind. Because recently we just met with a client, which is a qualified healthcare center, federally qualified healthcare center in Salina, Kansas. And we are ending a $60 million campaign, and we're providing them with some guidance on how to launch a community campaign that would last for 9 months in their community, and what type of tactics that they should be considering. And one is increasing the social media presence of this healthcare center. So, what do I mean by that? Increasing the social impact nature of using social media. We literally mean going out and buying space on Meta, which are two products, Facebook and Instagram. You can buy space on Spotify. A lot of these spaces, how you can do it is you can target zip codes that are in your community, and it is called clickbait. We're all familiar with the term clickbait, but in this instance, you will pay for individuals who click on these opportunities, but it is an opportunity to increase your awareness in certain zip codes using social media, which is, that is not necessarily a new idea, but something that has just happened over the past 15 years. And I don't believe nonprofits are taking advantage of the opportunity to use social media to get out a message. It's really getting out your message. You don't use social media a lot of times to raise dollars, because that's not necessarily where you're going to get larger amounts of dollars. But it is one way of getting out your message. And when we see organizations do that successfully, then they are increasing their donor base, but they're also increasing their relationship with potential donors. Or also, this is one way of diversifying your donor base and bringing in new individuals. It's all about tracking and then following up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. I mean, I remember years ago, my mother was in advertising for newspapers. Yeah, newspapers, remember those? But, she loved political season because people wanted to be in the paper, but in zones where they felt, the most voters turn out or whatever. It's just kind of transferred to the next generation of all of this. All right, you bring up the white elephant in the room. How much can AI help fundraisers with keeping donors, engaging new donors, etc.? Is this really something a nonprofit should, really spend time and look at?
Absolutely. Okay. Because AI, artificial intelligence, is not going to go away. And if you
No.
bury your head in the sand and you play like it's going to pass you by, it is literally going to pass you by. So, AI is something that has been in our environment for many, many decades. But with the advances now and all the resources that are being put into artificial intelligence, you need to really keep up. And it can help you, first of all, it can help you do research. If you click into certain websites that you can use for free or that you can pay a modest amount for, you can click in there and ask questions and it will respond like it's your personal assistant. So, I use AI as I am preparing for any meeting these days. I ask my chat GPT is what I use most, but I'll go in and ask ChatGPT questions to help give me information that I need for meetings that I might go into. So, for instance, if I'm going to see a museum, which we're doing a museum project right now for $25 million, I might ask it about trends in museum giving in the greater Kansas City area. And it will then be able to pull from information that has been fed into it. Uh, Nathan Chappelle, who was in Kansas City a couple of years ago with our national speaker series that is hosted by ourselves, Bank of America, and Nonprofit Connect, said that if you don't use artificial intelligence, you will be left behind because
Mhm.
it's not going away ever. So the more we utilize it, the more we become familiar and at ease with using the information, the more we refine the criteria that we're asking for, the better the results are and the responses are in the questions that you're going to ask and what is spitting back to you. So and also, as Nathan said, thank thank your AI provider, because sooner or later that AI provider is going to be smarter than you. So you want your AI provider being your partner. I will see Nathan in Chicago in November at our winter board meeting of the Giving Institute, and he is providing us an update about new techniques and tools in the areas of artificial intelligence and technology. So I will, at our next gathering or next few gatherings, Ruth, be able to shed more light in the areas of and recommendations in this area.
All
But
right, you have to do that. We had, thanks to you, we did have Nathan on the podcast. So selfless self promotion. Folks can go to our Ask the Expert on our YouTube channel and check out Nathan's comments from before. It'll be interesting to hear how much that's changed, where it's gone. I know we have just a few minutes left. What's the one thing you would tell nonprofits not to do in terms of creative realm or moving? What should we not do? Panic?
I, I think I've been successful in my career thus far, Ruth, because I have been a glass half full. I see opportunities in all situations. I try to look for opportunities. I try not to be a glass half empty. And so, if I could express one idea and one thought about how to look at the future, it is looking at what are the opportunities that we have to impact the largest number of potential donors to support the mission of our organization. And, whether that's one on one, that would be emails, that would be texts, that would be calls that we could make, or that could be using artificial intelligence. I think that there are a lot of tools out there that are very user friendly, that if you jump in and utilize technology and the opportunity and the great opportunities that it affords a nonprofit, then that's one way of continuing to be successful. If our glass half empty, I don't think I would have ever, I would ever have succeeded in this field, and I would have gotten out of it many years ago. So if you bring in your negative attitude, you're going to get negative results. So I'm not Pollyannish, okay? I am a realist, but I also want to paint a picture for a potential donor about the positive impact that their gift can make during either boom times or really down times as well.
Dr. Philanthropy, always great advice. Listen and be positive. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Ruth.
And thank you for joining us for KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. And we're produced by a nonprofit called Charitable Communications. This KC Cares episode was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. And if you want to be a guest on our show or underwriting opportunities, you go check our website, which is kccaresonline.org. Spread the love. You'll find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. And don't forget, Saturday mornings, you can catch us at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 a.m. and 94.5 FM. That's Saturday mornings. And you know what? Thank you for joining us on KC Cares.